Claire.
Now we're going to start off with the economy. It's once again dominating headlines.
Absolutely, and unfortunately there's bad news on the cover of Les Echos, the business daily here. 2012 will see a historic slump in purchasing power. Now, Les Echos has a statistic from the INSEE, the official statistic bureau here in France. It says that purchasing power will go down by 1.2%. That's the lowest level since 1984. And unfortunately, that's not the only bad news on Les Echos. They say that growth is going to remain low until the end of the year. GDP will only grow by 0.4%. And unemployment has increased significantly in May and will do so until the end of the year. Unemployment rate should be at about 9.9% by the end of 2012. And all this comes at a pretty bad time for the government that announced yesterday an increase in minimum wage by 2%. But even in this increase by 2% isn't making everyone happy. For instance, here on the cover of L'Humanité, the communist newspaper, they said that it's not enough, it's a minimum. And they point out that if you take into account inflation, the rise in minimum wage only comes out to about 0.6%, so not enough. And here on the cover of Le Canard Enchaîné, the satirical newspaper, they say that le changement, c'est doucement. So that's kind of a wink at François Hollande's campaign slogan, le changement, c'est maintenant. So instead of the change is now, change is slow.
And we're going to move on to more criticism of the government. This time it's the Interior Minister being targeted. He says he really wants to mark a difference from the Sarkozy years, but some are saying he's just not doing enough.
That's right. Now, Manuel Valls, he gave a speech this week saying that he wants to make relations between the police and French citizens more human. But Libération, the left-leaning newspaper, says, what is Manuel Valls actually doing? Now, in their editorial, they say that after 10 years of Sarkozy, because before being president, he was interior minister and so in charge of the police, the editorial says that after 10 years, relations between the police and citizens are at an all-time low. For instance, Manuel Valls, when he gave this speech, had to remind the police to be polite to citizens, to use the respectful vous terms instead of the less formal tu. So according to the editorial, what's needed is a profound change in culture, and they're wondering whether Manuel Valls is actually willing to do so, because for now it seems like he's kind of trying to sweet-talk the police, to brush them the right way and to gain their respect. For instance, there's one issue that he's kind of remained unclear about, which is a campaign promise that François Hollande made. During his campaign, he said that anytime that the police would control someone's identity, they would issue a receipt or a ticket. And this was a way that Hollande wanted to avoid any kind of abuse or discrimination. But Manuel Valls appears to be dragging his feet on this issue and hasn't said when or whether he'll put it in place.
And the government's getting flack for another one of its campaign promises, and that was the creation of 6,000 teaching jobs.
That's right. First of all, it's getting flack because to create these jobs, it's going to have to cut jobs in other ministries. And also because of the 6,000 jobs that are going to be created, only 280 of them are actually going to be teaching jobs or civil servants. The others are going to be assistants, etc. So it's not quite the 60,000 jobs that Hollande promised on his campaign trail. Now, Le Figaro has an interview with the Education Minister Vincent Payon, and they hope that he will very soon clarify the situation.
All right, now we're going to move on to Le Figaro. It's looking at Chancellor Angela Merkel's position ahead of what's billed as another crucial Eurozone summit.
That's right. Le Figaro says that Merkel is pounding her fist on the table. Now, yesterday, she firmly rejected the use of Eurobonds and mutualizing debt ahead of the crucial summit. And she says that not as long as I live, she said. So Le Figaro inside said that she's outright rejecting France's ideas. She's meeting François Hollande tonight. Le Figaro says that they're supposed to get on the same page, but it's most likely going to turn into an arm wrestling match. And I think we should end on football because it's on the cover of Le Parisien here. It says, will the Bleus, so the French team, will they be sanctioned? Because they got a lot of criticism for their behavior during the Euro Cup.
Bad attitude, generally.
Bad attitude. They didn't play well. They had a bad attitude. They were insulting to journalists and weren't that respectful to the fans that came to see them. So Le Parisien says that some of them I might actually be sanctioned for their behavior. So we'll see what happens with that.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Thank you very much, Florence. You're watching live from Paris. Let's take another look at the headlines. Syrian state television